introduce you. You're Scott Metzger, and what is your official title?
Founder.
You're founder of Freetail Brewing.
Yeah. Actually, I should have. Should we grab some beers before we?
Yeah, dude.
Do this?
You want to?
So let me go grab a each a beer.
Yeah.
Hang tight.
Yeah. Cool. So what kind of beer is this?
So this is called Frag Out. It's from our. We have a kind of a. I don't want to call it a side project. It's not a side project. It's kind of just like our own project called Ghost Pixel Beer Studio, and it's an opportunity for us to do some kind of different things that maybe don't necessarily fit under Freetail, but are still us. So this is called Frag Out. It's actually sold out in cans now, but we have it on draft, a little bit left on draft. But
Sure.
So the Ghost Pixel stuff we release in 16-ounce cans, like very limited release batch stuff. People come pick it up.
Okay, they pick it up here. You can't get it at the
right. We don't
the
distribute
stores
it
with
at all. Yeah, so it's kind of like an exclusive brand.
It is an exclusive. And then when you're here, like, so you can't pick it up at your other location, or is it just
At our other location too. So our two locations
Okay.
only. Yeah.
All right. So, but that's cool because then you can taste other beers, and I mean, it's anything to get people to come in.
Yeah, for sure. And it's when people come here, they don't want to just drink what is available at the grocery store, right? Because then they can just go to the grocery store and buy some six-packs and go home. Everyone wants to try new things, try different things. So this is an opportunity for us to make some things that are a little different that you can't find anywhere else.
Right. So, how did, just to start off, so whenever I originally wanted to do a podcast, I think I told you this in my original email, but like I was at the other location, the one on 1604. I was having my regular Freetail, whatever, I think it was just, whatever the batch they came out with, they had on special or something. And I had my meathead pizza, I was tearing it up, and I was like, man, you know what, I really should do a podcast. And then I'm like, who would I get? Maybe I can get like a couple friends to like talk to and just bullshit with, you know what I mean? But I was like, you know what would be really cool? I was telling my wife, like, what if I can meet up with the owner of this place? Like, I don't even know who
There you go. It's all full circle. So this can be your last episode.
Yeah, this is like, see you later.
No, hopefully not.
Yeah, but it worked out perfectly just because, like, I mean, I know a lot of people, sometimes people are, like, more approachable, but then there are some people that are just kind of like, I'm kind of busy. Which, I mean, you're busy. You're a busy guy, but... So I wanted to thank you for...
Well, I mean, I really love this format and doing them. It is like, and this year has been crazy. In fact, I had forgotten we had this scheduled. So you emailed me one day. I'm like, oh man. I'm like, okay.
when I sent you the email, you're like, oh shit. Yeah, we're good.
Well, I went like, what? Oh, let me go check my calendar. I'm like, oh, I put it on my calendar. Perfect. So I'm like, if something's on my calendar, I'll make sure not to.
Right, because whenever you send the email, you're like, I'm going to put it on my calendar.
Yeah.
We're not just thinking going back and forth, which, like I said before, I didn't mind the whole summer. It kind of worked out better just because the kids were at home and trying to get away. And it's just a hectic time. So now they're at school. The first couple weeks, I'm like, I got to go. You know what I mean? So it worked out perfectly. So
awesome.
How did this all start? I don't know if you probably answered that question plenty of times, but was this like an epiphany thing that you had, or was like the way I think about it is that like maybe you fell off? Like, are you a Back to the Future fan?
Yeah.
Like the Doc Brown, you knocked your head on the.
Well, sometimes it feels like maybe that's the reasoning, but no, honestly, when I grew up here, born and raised. And then when I went off to college, I didn't like beer because, in college, it's all Natty Light or whatever the cheapest keg people can get is. But then my first job afterwards, I moved to Dallas very briefly, and people started introducing me to some imported beers. I'm like, oh, yeah, beer's actually pretty good. And then I moved to New York.
So wait, you weren't a beer guy at the beginning?
No, not when I was like, in college or anything. Because it was all like...
Yeah, you like it's a shit beer, like the Bud Ice and
it's just okay. It was. I'm like,
it's kind of different.
I don't enjoy drinking this, right? So, by getting introduced to imports after college, I think, oh yeah, this is actually pretty good. And then I moved to New York for grad school briefly, and had a wide range of options up there. So when I moved back to San Antonio, it was always kind of a dream, like, hey, it'd be cool to, first I just thought like a bar where I could bring in different beers, but then I started home brewing. And then, traveling around for work and going to different places. And they had breweries. I'm like, well, how come... we only had Blue Star in San Antonio. So I'm like, well, San Antonio's a big city. How come we only have one brewery?
Growing.
So I'm like, well, I can sit around and wait for someone else to start a brewery, or I can just do it and give it a go. And I met our head brewer, who's been with us since the beginning, Jason. Met him. He was part of the same homebrew club. He had some professional experience. We developed a friendship, and so I brought him on. And it was kind of a long process. There was a moment it was New Year's Eve 2005. Me and my friends were at a brew pub in New Mexico, and I was like, I'm gonna make a New Year's resolution. I'm gonna open a brewery. I'd been thinking about it.
Yeah,
and it took about 3 years to make it happen, though. After that, so
because you got to put together a plan, and then there's a whole
for sure.
You can't just go, hey, there's a location I like.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna go put some money down. I'm pretty sure it's more difficult.
And and when I started doing that in 2006, I was like a 26-year-old kid who no bank would rationally lend money to, and no landlord's going to be, so there was a lot of pitching and convincing people. The first person to convince was a landlord that we were a worthy.
Right. So isn't that like the smart thing to do is to get the location first? Right.
Yeah. Well, it helps for sure. Yeah. But that's when people are starting businesses and pitching investors, you got to pitch. A landlord's not an investor, but you got to pitch them too, especially when you're not proven. So, a lot of people always ask us, well, why is your original location there? So that's who would take us, So
is the one over off?
Yeah, on 1604. Okay. That's our original location.
Hey, I like that location. You know why? Because it's on the top of a hill, pretty much.
Yeah,
and you can see that. So in hindsight, that's a great location.
Yeah, it's worked out really well, and it was. We got really lucky, and then the city's kind of back when we opened between I-10 and 281, it was kind of nothing there. It was the middle, and when you got to Blanco, there was stuff. When you kind of got closer to I-10, there was some stuff, but right there in the middle, it was really not developed yet. So. We were kind of ahead of the game.
Yeah, the neighborhood behind.
Yeah, neighborhoods, apartments. Now there's all kinds of stuff going on. Apartments, neighborhoods. There's a hospital in the corner. So, so all this stuff has happened. After we came in, and Starbucks across the highway that wasn't there before. So, it's been cool to watch it develop around there.
That's good, man. And so, getting to this part over here to opening up. Because do you brew all your beer at
we brew at both locations. So the beer they brew up north on 1604 is only for the restaurant, and all the beer we brew here, or all our distributed beer is brewed out of here, and then we also make the Ghost Pixel stuff we mentioned here.
So who's spearheading that?
So Jason, our head brewer, that first guy I hired, he's in charge of all our brewing operations. So all our brewers here and at 1604 all report to him.
To the Ghost Pixel, cool.
Yeah.
So whenever you were brewing your own beer initially, before you got into business, before you knew you wanted to get into this, what kind of, how were you brewing it? Was it, because they sell those kits?
Yeah. It was beyond a little kit, a beginner kit. But it was still, it was just a more elaborate kit, right?
Because I remember, I've never done it, but my older brother, he would go to his friend's house and say, hey, I'm going to go check on my brew that we're brewing, so do you want to go check it out? I'm like, sure. But then there was this tube that came out and going into a bucket, a big old paint bucket.
Yeah,
right?
It's all like that. Yeah, it's all like that, and sitting in the closet and hoping it doesn't explode and ruin all your clothes and all that. So, that was all part of it. And another question we ask all the time, which recipes are your original one? Well, none of them.
Why would
I use my amateur rinky-dink stuff? We have a real brewery now, and I have a real brewer now. So because I always tell people, I was a home brewer, but I never made claim that I was a good one.
Yeah, your claim.
I just did it and enjoyed it.
Me, I'm a manager. I manage my fantasy team. But I manage a football team, but it's a fantasy team.
Yeah. I heard a fantasy football analyst today refer to, he said, a reality team. He was talking about the actual teams. He's like, these coaches with their reality teams. I'm like, well, reality team? What is he talking about? oh, like actual football teams.
Yeah, like, oh, you mean actual general managers?
Yeah. I'm like, that's kind of a funny way to put it.
Well, right.
Makes sense.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, that reality league, the NFL.
Yeah, I started me and a buddy of mine just started doing a fantasy football podcast and started talking like random starts and pickups and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
It's another like a notch, you know what I mean, in my belt kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
well, you'll have to give me that info. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
That's what I'm in. Like the season long ones, but like the DraftKings.
The DraftKings, the daily.
Yeah.
You know, a funny story. It's kind of totally off topic, but one of my friends from elementary, middle school, and high school and stuff like that. He was doing a daily fantasy for NBA, and I believe he was up to $106,000 that he was going to win.
Wow.
And then I think it was a player like Golden State Warriors. I think it was what's that? Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson was the only starter left in there, and he wasn't supposed to score any points for him to score to get $106,000. Klay Thompson hit a random 3-pointer. They called a timeout, and he got off and he went to the bench, and so my friend lost. I think it was like $56,000, so he got $40,000 or $45 just off of one shot. So, but I'm like, you still won.
Yeah, I have noticed that because you can the tournaments you're in, you can go see who's up top, and I've seen and I only do football, but I've noticed oh man, that one play just cost this guy.
Yeah, it's right. And you can see it, right? You can see it. So you kind of feel their pain, but you're like, oh.
And every time I think on Monday, I was in one, the Monday night one only. I'm doing pretty good. I can, if my second game players do well, because I was already way in the money in the first game, but I still had half my players to go.
Oh, that's cool. Good. So don't you feel good going
And then they did nothing. I had Hunter Henry for
he got
zero.
Yeah, we talked about him too.
Yeah, I had Denver's defense had 4 points.
Right, because they
Demarius Thomas did nothing.
Yeah, man, you picked a bunch of
but
those guys are winners coming into the season. You know what I mean? Coming into week 1 or whatever.
But I had Bradford, I had Diggs, I had Thielen, I had Cook, I had all the Vikings that did awesome.
So then you did tear it up for a while, and then you felt.
So I was like, so close.
Man, that kind of sucks, dude.
But I'm so I at the beginning of every season I put in $100 and just see how far it would take me. So last year I ended up 200.
But this was the daily one, right?
Yeah, all daily.
Not the season one.
Yeah, I don't do. Well, I do with friends, but I don't really do that well on those.
Yeah, because you do a lot of paying attention. Yeah. That's the one I do is the season long. I haven't tried the daily one yet, which I keep telling myself I'm going to, just because that $106,000 or $45,000 thing. So
yeah,
I got to give it a shot, man. So how did you come up with the name Freetail?
Well,
I read something about it. It's a bat around.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted something that was made sense and was local to our area, but not cliche Longhorn or Alamo, which is taken by someone else anyway, or Blue Bonnet, right? I didn't want these stereotypical Texan things, but I wanted something that was still relevant to Texas and specifically San Antonio, and cool. So. But I remember, in high school, I was listening to the radio, and they the weird story of the day, in 1997, was the Texas legislature just passed a resolution to make the Mexican Freetail bat the official flying mammal of Texas. I'm like, okay, well that's weird and dumb.
But, why would you?
Yeah, why do we need a flying mammal? But I remembered that so I was like, hey, that's kind of cool. So and then I got got to learn about bats, and we do a lot of work with Bat Conservation International now because I've learned about bats and their importance to the ecosystem here. But they kind of are a good representation for what we want to be, which is they're small, they're tiny little creatures, but they can go out and eat thousands of pounds of insects each night. So they have a big impact on the ecosystem. That's kind of what we want our brewery to be. We're a small brewery, but we want to have a big impact on the beer ecosystem around us. So that's where it kind of makes sense. That's where the name came from. And then our logo, the bats don't really they don't have a little devil tail, and so it's all art. That's creative liberties right there for sure.
No, that bat, the little bat tail thing, I was like, wow, is there a Batman? But
Yeah.
there's really
Yeah.
not. So are you a huge Batman fan? Or
I mean, I like since Christopher Nolan did the new movies, I really like.
Right,
I really
those
like
are
those. Those are
nice.
awesome. Like, I mean, the first one with Michael Keaton was pretty. I remember as a kid liking it, but
Yeah,
now
because-
I watch it, I'm like,
because
this is dumb.
It kind of right. They don't really hold up. I mean, I
Yeah.
want to say that Bruce Wayne is probably the best one, but like the Michael Keaton one. But
Yeah,
then just
yeah.
because that's what I grew up and that's how I know him,
Yeah.
and he just spoke regularly. Like he didn't have to go
But I think
the
nobody
deep voice.
tried to make it like
But it was,
serious
this was like
until
serious and dark and stuff like that.
yeah, which I love.
Yeah, it was-
because no one tried to make Batman serious until
I
Christian
think
Bale. You
that
know?
that movie, the Dark Knight, is the one that I'll watch. Like if it comes out on TNT or HBO, whenever it's on, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
That and Forrest Gump, like just those. You know what I mean? I'll just watch whenever those movies are out. I'll just watch it. And Dark Knight is a beast. So what made you like this? I'm not trying to be mean, but like, whenever you're wanting to open up the business. So when you were going into it, I mean, how did you get your confidence to like want to build something? Because there's a restaurant business that take plummets
All the
rapidly
time.
and all the
Yeah.
time, and then there's breweries who there's already beers like big staple beers
Yeah.
all around town. There's sports bars everywhere.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
it's
so-
definitely a risk.
and then
yeah.
you're trying to bring all, and then don't you do like open mics and stuff like that as well, or
No, we never did. I mean, we had some live music like back in the day, but
Yeah.
when the neighborhood started growing, it kind of had to get rid of that. But I mean, yeah, it was a huge risk, and I think what helped was being, 26 and single.
not knowing any better?
Well,
Is it like that?
I don't know. I mean, I thought I knew. I mean, because I had a pretty good professional career to that date.
What did you go to school for?
Economics. So
Okay, so you kind of knew.
yeah, and
more
I
or
did
less
business
on-
development for the company I worked for.
Okay.
So putting together plans and stuff was just kind of what I did. But it was. But being 26 and single and not like, okay, if it fails, it's fine.
I
I'll
still
just-
have a long way
yeah,
to go.
and I'm not letting anyone else down. Like if I was trying to do this now as a 37, about to be 38-year-old with 2 kids and a wife and a mortgage and car payments and all that, I'd be
There's
a lot more
of
scared, right?
people
Because there's
depending on you.
yeah, for sure, and there's a lot to lose. But when you're a 26-year-old kid, like what do I have to lose? Like some money.
Man, that's
but
that's
it's just
the best way to go.
For
Right?
sure,
Because you're
yeah.
like, even if I bankrupt or flip, it'll be off in 7 years, and I still have my whole life.
right. Yeah, and it's on the flip side, you can say like, well, a lot of people who start businesses and their like spouse is working, they're at least they have that support going with it, but for me, I was like,
So you had to make money yourself, and whatever.
oh
you
for
made,
sure, yeah.
Okay.
So, but there was, like I said, if I failed, I was just letting myself down. So, luckily we didn't fail. That's good. But I mean, mostly it was confidence in the concept, but then also having a passion for the concept too. And I think if you go look at businesses that are successes or failures, you'll very rarely find a business that fails that has a smart and passionate person leading it.
Right.
Sometimes they're smart and not passionate, and vice versa.
they can care less
and
if it
those probably fail.
goes up or
Yeah, but very rarely someone who's smart and has passion will fail because they know how to channel that passion in positive ways while still making the right decisions, from an operational perspective and staying disciplined to a plan as well. So I think that's the key for anyone starting a business. If you're smart but you're not passionate, then what's going to keep you in when times get a little tough? If you're passionate but you're not smart, well, how are you going to make the right decision?
you're going to lose a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, usually passionate but not smart people don't really have a lot of money to lose to begin with.
That's true.
It's kind of self-correcting. It's usually, there's a lot more smart people with money who aren't passionate, and those are the concepts we see kind of pop up and go away. because it's
right, because like I said, there's a ton of restaurants and stuff like that fail, that just have one of those things, or maybe two or three of what you have.
Yeah.
But none of them really have, back then, where they'd have the actual brewery, and you could see the bins and everything like that, the vats.
Well, and ultimately, it's what do you have? I mean, if your business is based off of, the things that you offer, like, okay, well, so tell me about your business. Oh, well, we make burritos. Okay, that's what, but like, what? But why do you exist? Like, tell me why, not what.
Like, what do you do to separate yourself from the rest?
Not
of
even
the
that.
other
That's
places?
still kind of, that's like, and you can see right behind you, there's this big bullseye, right? That's why, how, what, and this is what I think.
Yeah.
So it's, there's, and this is not my idea. This is a guy named Simon Sinek, and he wrote a book about this called "Start with Why," and he talks about. In the example he uses a lot is Apple, and I think Apple's actually kind of gone away with this. But back in the day, what made Apple is not that, and he talks about how Apple's different from Dell. Dell just says, like, here's what we make. We make computers. They go this fast. They have this much memory. Blah, blah. Apple says, we're out to change the world. And then they talk about how they're trying to change the world. So they start with, the why they exist. And that's kind of what we did too. Our thing was, we want to change the idea of what beer could be in San Antonio. So even though we didn't have the most comfortable dining room, we didn't have the biggest TVs, we didn't have the best decorations, we didn't have the best location, there were times where we didn't have the best service, but we had, a why that people could buy into.
The beer was still good. The food was still good.
Right. Yeah, but it was we had a mission that people wanted to see us succeed at, which is we want to change what beer can be in San Antonio, because for too long it was San Antonio was Bud Light, Miller Lite, Corona, Modelo. That's all San Antonio is. But I said, well, we want to change that. We want people to identify a locally made beer with this city, and we're still on. That's still what we're trying to do. We certainly haven't succeeded, in changing San Antonio. We've been successful as a business.
You certainly make an impact, because you start seeing more of a selection at your places.
Sure.
Like you can even get them at, like you guys are at Fiesta. Mm-hmm. You're at liquor stores, HEBs, grocery. I've even seen it. Or maybe I haven't seen it. Maybe like a CVS.
We're at the Alamo Dome.
Yeah, you're at the Alamo Dome, right? You're
for sure. And there, there's obviously a lot of hard work that goes into getting all that, but it all goes back to, okay, what do we do to help achieve our mission, which is to change what San Antonio thinks of beer. So that's where we always fall back on. So I think somebody opens, like I said, the taco shop. Okay, they might have delicious tacos and they might be okay, but what's the difference? What might be the difference when even a successful kind of business to like the next big thing, to where there's a line wrapped around the block for these tacos? Like, there's 1,000 taco shops in this town. What's so special about this one? Well, it's because these guys have a vision that I want to be part of, and I want to help them succeed. And I don't know that there is that. I don't think there is that. That taco shop.
I'm going to start one tomorrow.
If you can come up with the why that people can relate to, and just I got to be part of that, because I want to see that happen. So
there's something like that I love about just supporting local, just anything local acts, like bands, local brewers, local clothing line, just local just anything local, because I was born and raised in San Antonio. So just having a beer in my hand that the guys live right down the street, I mean, these are guys that are like me, grew up in the same area. I mean, it's cool. It's cool to me. So if I see stuff on, like, I think I've seen posts on Instagram or Twitter about people carrying Freetail at different locations, like in Houston or outside of San Antonio, and I think that's a pretty huge accomplishment, even though it's probably not as far out as you want to go yet. How far do you want to grow this thing? I mean, what would you see as being a success? You know what I mean?
So we distribute to like Austin and Houston, a few places in between, but that's not those are kind of, and they're a small part of business. Our goal is not to see how far we can get our beer.
Okay.
I'm going to measure success as, when is San Antonio changed in terms of beer, and when is
you accept competition and
absolutely,
right?
but I mean, but at the end of the day, I still want to be like the beer San Antonio,
right?
And I think of like if you go to Golden, Colorado, which in that area around Denver, there's craft breweries everywhere, local breweries. But if you go to Golden, where Coors is based, every bar has Coors, and they don't have Bud. And you get punched in the face for ordering a Bud in Golden, Colorado, right? And it's still a Coors town. We want that to be in San Antonio, where like, hey, you're from out of town, you get here, you get to you land at the airport, you're walking by, hey, it's interesting tap handle, I've never seen that before. Okay, it's Freetail, whatever. Get to the hotel, they got it on tap here too. I go to Mintiera, oh wow, they got that on the menu too. I go to a Spurs game, it's there. I got a SeaWorld, it's there. I stop in the Valero station, it's there. Like just. Be it to where you talk to a local, like, well, what's y'all's beer here? Oh man, we drink Freetail here, right? That's what our goal is, and that's what success.
That's what my wife does. She just asked, "Do you want beer?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Okay, I'll just bring you some." And it's the same thing all the time. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's just that Freetail original. Just because I like the other stuff, but I just like the little 6-pack.
Yeah.
And it's tasty, man. It's not too harsh and it's not too watery and pansy. You know what I mean? I like a little kick.
Yeah.
With flavor at the same time. You know what I mean?
So, but I think we could not sell a single drop outside the city ever, and still be a huge success, right? And that's how we built our business, not focused around, well, I've got to be in 8 states to like,
okay.
And all that. I mean, and maybe one day we grow beyond that, but my only vision right now is how do we be San Antonio's beer. And that's all. That's what our goal is. Because, like I said, I was born and raised here. I lived in Dallas for like a year and a half. I lived in New York for like a year. Other than that, I went to college in San Marcos for 3 years. So other than those, what is that? That's like 5.5 years. 5.5 years, and still visiting. Obviously, visiting my family. Every other minute, of my life I've lived has been in San Antonio. So I care a lot about this city and I want to, I want the city to be, to be the next great American city, period. And I think beer is part of that, but so is a lot of other stuff.
But yeah, I want it to be like a beer, be known as a beer city, or because you got the Spurs, and then of course we have the Alamo, River City and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But a beer one, it'd be pretty cool. And I think you guys would definitely be, if not at the top.
Well, the next 2 biggest breweries here in town, with all due respect to them, they're
you don't have to whisper.
They're not from here, So, and I tell my buddy Eugene from Alamo all the time. He's from California. Like,
is he really?
Yeah. So like, man, you can borrow the name, man, but it belongs to us, And I did some like research on my family. We've been in Bexar County since before Texas was Texas. So
back when it was part of
Mexico, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and so I found actually this is kind of neat. Now my wife's like annoyed with me because I found out like my 12th great grandfather was one of the 12 founding fathers of Monterrey. So I tell my wife, like, I'm Mexican royalty. Like
that is pretty badass.
You need to bow down to me.
Yeah.
But she does not appreciate that at all. But
right, you just go to sleep with like a big old sombrero on, just covered in poncho, with like a gold one.
But yeah, my dad's side of the family is German, but they're only like 4th generation. So I'm like, so people are, I'm like, hey, like, this is not to get into politics, but I just like to joke around when people talk about immigration. I'm like, y'all are all on my land, dude. Like, let me see your papers.
Yeah, I've been here 12 generations, okay?
Yeah.
That's 3 times as long as any of you.
I haven't seen any of your papers, man.
You see one of those 6 Flags?
Yeah.
I was part of that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why I have a lot of passion about San Antonio, and I want it to be great. And that's what drives us more than anything. So success is not based on, is our beer in Dallas or L.A. or anything like that. It's all about here.
So how involved are you in the beer creating process? Because I mean, were you like, what was the first beer you created as Freetail?
Well, the first one we ever did, back at the pub was a porter, Torpor Porter, which we still make up there. It's not one we distribute, but I mean, and that was kind of a recipe that Jason had before. But in general, and as how we approach beers, it's we sit down, discuss what are we trying to achieve, and I'm not really involved in the recipe creation anymore because that's not my expertise. I didn't say I was a good home brewer, remember? Right?
Right.
So let the guys who are better at it do it. But we sit down like this beer we're drinking, Frag Out. We sat down, and before we put anything together around a recipe, we talked about what do we want it to be like. So this is kind of like very fruity. And citrusy. There's no fruit in here at all.
I feel like it's the summertime. Like drink it on the.
But there's no fruit in this at all. This is all from the hop character that goes in that. So
because a lot of them say like citrusy and all that stuff.
So you get a lot of that citrus in here, like even a little lemony. So, what are our objectives, and then how do we achieve it? So, and again, that's kind of what we started. I always like to start with a, big picture, and then get into the nuts and bolts. So, what are we trying to achieve? Okay, let's figure out how to do it. Instead of like, hey, we have this process, what can we make with it? We always go the other way around. What do we want to make? Okay, let's figure out how to make it.
So do you ever just wake up every once in a while and be like, oh, I want this kind of beer, and I'll just take it to the guys and gals?
Every now and then, but I mean, it's such a. It's usually thoughts kind of like boil around for a while. We talk about, hey, you thinking about this? Like, okay, and then we'll revisit that. Like in a few, hey, remember that time you thought of this? And kind of, just always, stuff rolling around. Like it's like
brainstorming.
It's like a big long term. I almost describe it as like a tumbler. Just like there's these little rocks in there that are rough ideas. We just throw a little pebble in. And by the time it comes out, after tumbling for a few months, it's a nice polished little stone, right?
Nice.
Sometimes, that's the best way to do it, because whenever we try to rush into something, that's when we get or like force ourselves to do something, that's when we get the worst results, right?
So are you into like Dunkels or?
I like them all. The only styles I don't like are barley wine and quad, or what I don't really like.
What's a quad?
A quad is like a Belgian barley wine, basically.
Oh, okay.
And they're just not for me.
Is like the ones that come in just green bottles? Is that?
Not necessarily. I mean, there's some Americans.
Isn't it kind of like a skunk?
Green bottles can sometimes do that, but it's not. I mean, that can happen to any beer.
Because that's just what I heard from another brewer guy. I mean, not like professionally.
Yeah,
it's just whatever beer that's brewed inside of it and distributed into a green bottle, you get that skunky just because of just the way the sun hits it or something. Something strange.
I'm gonna put this in the sun, it's gonna get skunky. Because what happens is UV light reacts with chemicals in the hops, natural chemicals, and it has a chemical reaction, and that's what creates that skunkiness. And it only takes a minute. So I'm putting this in the sun, and it's going to start to get a little skunky. Right?
Okay,
it doesn't take long.
So it's just because it's a thinner layer.
It's green. Green and white
dark.
bottles don't block out the light as well as brown bottles, but brown bottles can do it too. A can is the best protector against it. But
I like those. I like those lids that you put on there.
Yeah, they're really
the
easy and recyclable. Yeah,
right. I think I've broken like 17 nails trying to get off. And
there's a trick. You just gotta grab the top, grab one, and then pull. Right? It's just
because I've struggled with like 2 or 3, and I'm like, okay, I've shaken this one enough. Like I love that because I always have this thing in my mind. What if all these cans that have just been sitting there in a damn warehouse and there's rats running all over them and shitting and pissing all over them? So I want to get these beers that have these plastic covers on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just trying to get them off. It's just a bitch. So I take them all off fast. You know what I mean? And then stick them in my fridge. I don't want to mess with them later. So where did this inspiration, like to keep going more and more, and to keep driving and to keep doing what you're doing and growing? Like what's keeping you motivated? I know you said you wanted to be a part of the city and be everywhere, but like you said, why do you want to do that?
I mean that's the why. I mean until until we reach that mission, being San Antonio's beer, really changing the way San Antonio thinks of beer, our work will never be done. So, that's the it's like a roadmap, and we know that's the destination, and there's a million different pathways to get there, and some are dead ends, and some are shortcuts, and we've just got to figure out, navigate our way on this crazy map, and try to get to that goal. In meantime, there's other people trying to achieve the same goal, which is cool. I embrace competition, but that's kind of.
Does that make you guys want to work harder and try to
Oh,
get
for
to
sure.
something?
Yeah, I'm very competitive, and I get motivated by and all these new breweries starting. They push us to do even better.
Yeah, because you can't play fantasy football and not be competitive, right?
Right.
And own a business and not be competitive.
Right. Yeah, playing fantasy football by yourself would be pretty boring.
Exactly.
You'd win every game.
Or you're just like, this is the best beer I've ever had. There's no other beers around.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah, I think that winning every time gets boring. Not having somebody push you gets boring. Not facing challenges gets boring. So we like challenges. We like rising to the new level. So
what's the biggest challenge that you guys face as a Freetail Brewing right now?
I think for the most part it's breaking through and getting people to try something new. So let's say we go to Paper Tiger to a show. Our beer's there, but I guarantee at any given show probably only 10 or 20% of the people there have ever even heard of us, and and of the other 80 to 90%, probably only a quarter of them are interested in trying, and changing. So
there's some people that are just stagnant and just sticking with their Lone Star beer.
They like their Lone Star. It's cheap,
or their PBR.
And they can drink a lot of them, and that's what they care about. But until we reach all those people, our work will never get done. And of course, and each additional person is harder than the previous one, right? Because we already got all the easy people. They found us the first day we opened.
Like me.
They were looking for us, right?
Someone that brews locally, and I want beer that was born yesterday.
Yeah.
Or 2 days ago.
But the guy who just hates craft beer and loves his Natty Light, he's going to be really hard to convince. But that doesn't mean we're not going to try.
That was another thing. Like the guys that are stuck to all these big names, as far as having the Anheuser-Busch and the Coors, like how do you get those guys to even like try to convert them? I mean, is it like
some of them can't be got. I mean, but and that's just the nature of it. It's just like, there's some stuff I don't like, right? Like I'm so over people with their like special Brussels sprouts at restaurants. Like they're still Brussels sprouts, man. I don't like Brussels sprouts. You're not gonna convince me to like Brussels sprouts. I don't care about your Brussels sprouts, but you got to try our Brussels sprouts. Like, man,
isn't that kind of the same thing though?
Yeah, it kind of
right?
is. But this is a realization for myself. Like, yeah, I'm selling Brussels sprouts to some people. How do I get them? I may never get them, but
maybe I switch it and say it's okra. Or, you know what I mean?
But we're gonna try, and then maybe you're like, all right, fine, I'll try your fucking Brussels sprouts, and then hey. It wasn't bad. Okay, all right. Hey, let me try that Brussels sprout again. And eventually, there's a lot of breakthroughs to be had. I mean, I have a lot of friends who, before I started the brewery or before we really became friends, they were just, light beer drinkers, and then I slowly turned them. I mean, I'm thinking of one friend who, He I don't know why we're friends. He's like super conservative, and I'm not. But one thing I succeeded at. Really,
he's not funny. I am.
He's not funny. But one area that I really I changed him was on beer. He doesn't drink any light beer anymore. He drinks, craft beer only. But when I first met him, he was like a Keystone light drinker and a Coors Light drinker. And now he won't touch that stuff.
That's water, right? Like it's just.
I mean, that's also why some people kind of like it, right?
It's just kind of like refreshing to them.
It's just
I'm not going to knock those people.
You don't. Yeah, you can't knock them. I mean, for some people, it's I can barely taste it and it gets me drunk.
Right.
Okay,
I'm just looking to get drunk.
Yeah, it depends on what.
Okay, fine, go. Right. It's probably less expensive.
Yeah,
like,
what are your objectives, right?
Your $1 beer.
Yeah.
You know, have a blast. Get shit faced off $7.
Hey, so you never know where people are at in their life, right? Like,
exactly.
Hey, you know.
So if you wanted to, someone who's never tried Freetail before, or has even heard or have heard of you, but just anybody who's just new to beer or wants to get into your brand, what 3 beers do you recommend to them?
It's really tough because it really requires like a conversation of like, well, what do you like? You know, because a lot of people want to say like, well, there's a gateway beer, right? And like, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, and I always say like, you know, like Nickelback is a gateway band, right? And I don't want to listen. Like,
no, I don't.
They're not going to make me like better music,
no,
right? If I'm going to get into good music, I want to get into good stuff. McDonald's is a gateway burger. I don't need a gateway burger, right? So, there's no like, this is your gateway, and if you drink this one first, the whole world will open up to you. You know, some of our most complex beers are barrel-aged wild beers.
The ones that are served in the smallest glass.
Yeah, and cost the most money.
Like $12.
But they sit in barrels for years before they're ready, right? So, but those are, you know, some of the most complex beers we make. But they go really well for somebody who, like, I don't like beer, I like wine.
Oh, I see.
You know, because there's a lot of corollary flavors they can pull out of that. So it really depends on each person, you know, what do you like, you know, what don't you like? Because there's, you know, I think what people think of beer as when they say I don't like beer, they're thinking of Bud Light, Coors Light, Miller Lite.
Yeah, the big names when
Right.
all they see is a bunch of assholes on TV.
And it's I mean it's like if all I thought of wine was white Zinfandel, I'd never drink any wine.
I would never have wine
right?
ever again.
So, but you know, people don't realize that beer is extremely diverse. So as diverse as wine is, you know, and wine's diversity depends on, you know, 3 things: the type of grape you use, your water chemistry, and the yeast. Well, I guess a 4th thing is like the wood that's aged in. Whereas beer, you know, has the water chemistry, the grain used, the type of grain, and then the way the grain is roasted and prepared, the hops, the yeast, and then, you know, how it's aged as well. So there's even more variation and complexity in beer than there even could be in wine. So,
well, yeah, I would just think there's way more flavors, right? I mean,
I'm not like an advanced wine taster, so I don't want to like knock wine. But I mean, like when I go to, and I have a great time going to wineries. Like I took my wife to Napa, went to wineries, and I loved it. But at the same time, I was kind of like, all these kind of taste the same to me, right?
They kind of, that's me, but I'm not.
But I'm not. I've not been sure. But actually, then the guy like walked me down, like, you know what? I can kind of taste this and this, you know. So
do you think that they can tell you kind of anything and be like?
No, I don't know. I could really, and I believe it, you know, because it's, you know.
How many glasses had you had before that? Right? You're like, oh yeah, I do taste tuna and Brussels sprouts.
Yeah. But you know, I had a great time, and you know, the same experience that people find in wine or food or spirits or anything can be had in beer. So it's, you know, you tell me I don't really like beer. I'm gonna have a 5-minute conversation to you before I recommend a beer, and there's a good chance you might like it.
Do you do that often?
Yeah, like I mean, especially back when I was at the pub all the time and directly interfacing with you know, people who come in, and you know, when we were new, it was a lot different because.
Oh right, I'm sure you're there all the time.
Because yeah, well, and it was a lot different with, you know, now the people who come in kind of know what we are, whereas back then no one knew what we are because we were new, and people would walk in and, oh, do you have any domestic beer? And be like, well, man, I'm touching the tank it came out of, and I'm touching the bar at the same time. Your beer's traveling this far, like how domestic do you want, right? But you know, and we'd have people walk in like, what is this place? You know, so there was a lot more opportunity to interact. There's a lot of more people who we're eager to go on that journey of discovery.
Right,
Whereas our
also being
own,
new,
yeah,
right?
and our success at changing San Antonio beer is kind of a double-edged sword in that now there's, those people know about beer, so they don't require the kind of, I guess I would say, the education. So I was
gonna say kind of like taking the hand and like walking them down. This is where you go. This is what you'd want. You get a little bit more educated.
Yeah. So we got everyone off training wheels, and now I'm like, I kind of miss pushing my little kid on training wheels, right? But they don't need them anymore. So, but yeah, I meet people all the time, and now it's at more outside events, and well, I don't like beer. And like, well, you do, and I tell everyone saying, you do like beer, you just haven't had the beer you like yet.
Right. So how's your team of like marketing and promotions and stuff like that? I mean, do you have a solid team, or what are you looking for? And
yeah, well, we have kind of a group of bandits. We have a few sales reps who are brand ambassadors who go out, and they're more interacting with our accounts, and keeping them informed of what's new and helping them to promote and sell the beer. And then we work with a local marketing company, Anderson Marketing Group, who we've worked with since 2010 or 11. They started doing our website, and now they do kind of our marketing for us, because I'm not a marketing person.
That's not your thing.
Yeah, it's not really, I'm not good at anything, to be honest with you. But
it's like you're not great at one thing.
I'm okay at a lot of stuff.
That's the way to do it. The jack of all trades.
Yeah. So we work with them, but it's kind of all a team effort of and very, well, hey, how do we feel about this? And we want to express ourselves in a way that hopefully resonates with other people. And the vast majority of our staff are all born and raised San Antonians too, so we have.
So they know exactly where to go. Like,
well, we kind of have that same. We can connect around that why that we talked about,
right? To
change the way San Antonio thinks about beer, and we just always go back to that and say, well, is the way we feel about this, does that help promote that mission? If yes, let's go forward. If no, let's rethink it.
That's awesome. I mean. So, I know what your ultimate goal is, but what's your, I guess, like a 6-week goal or 3-month goal or something like that? Do you have something that you're trying to, or maybe something that you're currently working on that you want to get out?
Yeah, most of our short-term goals are very, they're like very, either task focused or operational focused. So like, go take the points of distribution of brand X from Y to Z, right? And so it's very, very specific. Or we're working on getting our inventory accuracy to a certain percent. It's like operational stuff. So, and that's more around, optimizing the way we do, conduct our operations. Whereas, we don't really set like a, short-term markers that necessarily relate to the bigger goal in a direct, like, you can see, like, okay, that Y is a puzzle piece, and we put a puzzle piece at a time. It's all kind of a thing where we've got to do all these things, and then just slowly, it's like a nebula floating, and then while that nebula and all these gases and rocks are just floating through space, they don't look like anything, and one day you wake up and there's a planet, right? So it's not.
So you're just kind of every once in a while, an idea would just form into a bigger idea.
Yeah, and then so what we have to do, we have to keep an eye on what our ultimate purpose is. We got to be, dedicated to the quality of our product.
Right, because then, you guys are doing pretty well because you're doing the food thing. Because it's a bar, and usually like, well, it's a bar and it has food, but this food's like.
Yeah, I think we're more of a restaurant than a bar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
that's where I'm like, that's impressive right off the bat. Just having the pizza that I had there, but I kind of like my same thing. I don't venture out. It's either pepperoni pizza or the meathead, and I've had the nachos, which I love, but that pizza's just so damn good. You know what I mean?
So the quality. That's a key pillar. We have to have that, but then just being operationally efficient. Because we're still a business, right? And we're not owned by Anheuser-Busch. So, we can't just go, oh, well, yeah, that Super Bowl ad didn't work. Oh, well.
Right.
We got to make sure we're efficient. And
so you guys do any commercials or nothing?
No. I mean, we do social media advertising.
That's what I was going to say.
We had a billboard.
Isn't it kind of easier to be a business now than it was back
even 5 years ago? Yeah,
probably even 5 years ago, but for sure 20 years ago.
Yeah, I think social media has really changed the way to reach people, and we can reach them in a more authentic way and a more targeted way, right? So if I want to reach someone like you,
hashtag beer.
Well, not even that, but through I know how to reach someone like you. All right, I want people who live in San Antonio who are between the ages of 30 and 40 and who have kids and who drink beer. And that ad's going to get delivered to you.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
Whereas a TV commercial, just shit. We hope people who care are watching.
Yeah.
I think social media has really changed the way, and almost to the point where, if you remember, some movies, they would show this futuristic vision of people walking through a mall, and there would be ads that were custom tailored to you as you walk through the mall.
Oh, you're talking about a Minority Report?
Right. And, we don't have that in the mall, but we have that on our computer screens, right? Yeah. I mean, open up Facebook. All those ads.
All that stuff, it's because you like this, because you like this, and then...
You clicked on something. I clicked on a link for...
I think my wife's freaked out because she thinks she just said washer and dryer. She didn't type it in or anything. And then she went looking on Facebook, and the washer and dryer ad came up for Best Buy.
She typed it somewhere.
She had to have. Or I don't know. I just tell her, I think your anxiety's kicking in. Everybody's anxiety's kicking in. That you just want to think that stuff's that easy to get to, or our phones can hear us at all times. Yeah. In my case, that yes, it can.
But your ads that get delivered to you are relevant to you. By accident or not, right? That you accidentally clicked on a minivan ad once, and now you got nothing but minivans, right? But it's just it's cool, and because I know I can reach you if I want to, as opposed to any other form of media relies on luck.
Okay, so one of my buddies, he's like a childhood friend. He plays bass in this band called Piñata Protest. And I thought it was cool as hell that he had texted me and sent me a picture hey, check this shit out. We're getting our own beer.
Yeah.
That is fucking awesome. How did that work? Because I had spoken to them. They were on the podcast a couple months ago, and they said that you're just a big fan of music.
Well, for sure. Yeah, and they're one of my favorite bands, and I'm a big fan of punk music, and they bring kind of the sound of San Antonio into it in a unique way that I don't think a lot of. I mean, even besides just that specific sound, there's not a lot of bands who are doing something that unique, in my opinion, and they're doing something really unique, and so that's really appealing to me. But the fact that it's so reflective, I think, of what I think of San Antonio culture. Where I remember going to the White Rabbit and going to punk shows, and you can guarantee 50% of these guys at a punk show also own a Selena CD, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
for sure,
right? And so it's to me, what they're doing.
I remember seeing Selena at Rosedale Park.
Yeah. So I was really sad when Selena died.
Yeah.
Right? And I was still someone's gonna give it to Yolanda, man.
Please.
But what they did, and just to me they're reflecting the sound of San Antonio back to us, and that's what's really cool, and that's what I look for in all my stuff, right? That's why I think the city loves the Spurs so much, more than any other city loves their team. It's because the Spurs reflect our city's values back to us, and it's
no showboating.
Yeah, it's looking in the mirror and seeing
fancy.
The best image of ourselves, right? It's imagine waking up and after a long night and you're looking all scraggly and you walk in front of the mirror, but there you are in the mirror, dressed in a tuxedo, all ready to go. That's what I think Piñata Protest and Spurs and And companies like HEB, that's what they are for us. They are the best reflections of ourselves back to us. And that's what we try to be, with our company. And that, again, it goes back to that why. That's what we're trying to be. So that's what I love about them. And so I was like, man, it'd be cool to do a beer with them. And we managed to get in touch with them, and we did that beer for 2 years. And it was we did a couple shows with them. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, definitely a highlight.
It's cool. I went out and found as many beers as I could. I drank them all. Like I told my buddy Richie, I should have at least kept a 6-pack.
They probably wouldn't be very good anymore. It'd be about a year and a half old.
But just the can itself, I should have. I should have at least done that. Some fan I am.
We'll get you. I'll get you some cans. Come back sometime. We'll get you some cans.
Okay, so I know you're a busy dude, so you got to get off and do your thing. So I just wanted to take time and say thank you again for
I thank you. It's a lot of fun.
Help me. Like I said, you were the first person I thought of being on the podcast. I didn't know who you were, but I knew the owner of or the founder of who's doing this. Who's
the man behind the curtain.
One of the guys. Yeah, I got to get with that guy to see what what his idea was and how he came up with this. And I mean, this place is a beautiful place, man. Can you just real quick explain where we're at? Is what it is?
Yeah. So this is the brewery we built. So our original brewery, on 64, opened in 2008. At the time, and this can go into a much longer story that we probably should have planned for. That we went to,
probably.
But when we started, it was illegal for us to distribute our beer. So part of our original business plan, and why a lot of people thought what I was trying to do was stupid, was I had to change the law to allow us to distribute our beer.
You had to change the law?
Yeah. So 2013, I was involved in the process of changing the laws in Texas. And that's why you've seen a lot more breweries open since then as well. So after that, we built this one on South Presa, 2000 South Presa. This building has been a lot of things. Been magazine warehouses, been restaurant supply warehouses. It's been like a cheerleading thing. It's had wrestling in here. And we've done wrestling events in here with the people who used to be in here like 15 years ago.
Is that what those garage, right? You got a big, because I mean, this place is huge.
Yeah. Well, those are our loading docks, but then we've set wrestling up in the loading docks. We've set it out in the main brewery before. But when we took it over, Wounded Warriors Projects wasn't here, and they were building like hot rods to auction off to raise money.
Oh, shit. That's awesome.
And they didn't need the space anymore, so we kind of lucked into it. But a really cool, old building, a lot of character. I mean, we had to basically demolish it to bring it to a shell and then build it back up to make it work for us. But really cool. A lot of windows, so it's a little warm in here, right?
Yeah,
AC's working maximum right now, but it's beautiful.
I like that you can see everything, like the city. Because another one of my friends, he's Richie's brother, Aaron. He does retro band toys, and he works here downtown. He just says he gets a lot of inspiration just being around like all these working people. You know what I mean?
For sure.
It doesn't have to be something super fancy, driving like Bentleys and all that bullshit.
Right,
you know what I mean? You just see working class, and you see it's pretty inspiring to just make you want to keep thriving to be something.
Well, and we wanted to come down here because we wanted to be part of helping to revitalize the neighborhood and not gentrify it, not kick people out because they can't afford their house anymore, but and part of turning it around. And since we moved in, we've seen Merit Coffee go across the street. An architect has moved in. They're building a CrossFit gym, which is
wow.
Yeah. I don't know if they're building it or if building a building is the CrossFit. Like, oh, we built a building. That was a good workout today. And
right. They're
and then somebody else.
It's on to our next one.
Yeah. But so that's going in. They're doing something cool here where the Buggy Warehouse used to be. So seeing the neighborhood change in a positive way, and not in a way that's like, let's put up, and it's happening around here too, but let's put up expensive condos and.
Yeah, I see that. Like right down there, like at the Pearl and all that. I'm like, who wants to live like pay $2,000, $3,000 to live right here?
And there are people, but we need to think about the people who have been living here, right? And they shouldn't have to move because, I want to see people be able to stay in the neighborhood they've been in for a long time.
To keep it what it is.
Because they maintained it for us for so long. They should reap the benefits of it growing and succeeding.
Hey, you should know something about that, being 12th generation.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, being Mexican royalty is just.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you. Right quick, what was the name of the law that you changed?
Well, the bill was Senate Bill 515, but it was basically just a law that said that we can't distribute our beer. So that was what we changed.
You just changed that.
Yeah.
Man. Well,
so it's funny. Here's the
glad
the alcoholic beverage code book right here, right? So people, it's funny.
So you just have it on your desk at all times.
Well, I mean, it's useful, but I was talking to somebody, once, and they were like, oh yeah, and this, so all this underline right here. This is only one page, but all this underline stuff was stuff that I helped change.
Sales by brew pub license.
Yeah, and then there's other parts.
Because you
in
were a
here, too.
brewery trying to sell at the same time. It wasn't just a actual brewery.
Yeah.
So isn't that what
complicated.
BJ's is? Or it's kind of.
They're a little different. I mean, it's a. We can have like a 4-hour podcast on that.
Oh, okay. Let me know when you're up for another one, man. So I'm down. But Scott, I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you.